Hey guys, Remy here, welcome back to another video. Today I'm doing a very belated 2020 vinyl tag. I know that we're almost practically halfway through 2021 already, but I've been wanting to do this video for such a long time and now I finally have time to do it, so let's get started. Number 1, a discovery you made in 2020. Well, I think it's fair to say, based on the majority of videos I've made in the past few months, I've talked about David Bowie a lot. Well, whilst I obviously knew who David Bowie was and I knew some of his songs just growing up my whole life because my parents loved David Bowie, I didn't actually sit down and actually listen to him and start to fall in love with his music until the second UK lockdown, which was November 2020. And yeah, I would definitely say he's just taken over my life essentially. My music taste has really changed because of him. I've bought so many albums in such a short space of time. I didn't even buy Beatles albums that quickly. But yeah, he's definitely the biggest discovery I've made in 2020, and in 2021 I'm still discovering more of his stuff, which I love. Number 2, albums I bought in quarantine. So when I think of quarantine, I tend to think of the first lockdown, which for the UK was pretty much like mid-March to like beginning of July. So for that, I mostly bought more Beatles albums. So I've got myself a whole Beatles anthology set. I haven't listened to these in a while, but honestly, if you're a Beatles fan, they are incredible. Especially Anthology 2. Anthology 2 is my favourite because it has like the most change. Like you start off with pretty much the 8 days a week kind of Beatles for Sale Help era, and then by the end of it, you know, you're at the end of like Magical Mystery Tour, Sgt. Pepper era. So like the change is just incredible and it's fascinating to hear them behind the scenes. Don't get me wrong, the other anthologies are great. I love hearing the early stuff from Anthology 1 as well, and I love hearing alternate takes on Anthology 3. But apart from Beatles, I also nabbed myself quite a few Monkees albums because this is when I was like really like in my Monkees phase. Don't get me wrong, I still think the Monkees are brilliant. I just haven't really listened to them a lot. To me, they're more of a summery band, and we've been having such terrible weather that I've just not really been in the mood for the Monkees. But you know, I've got the Birds of the Bees and the Monkees. I've got my favourite Monkees album, which is Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn and Jones Limited. Then Headquarters, and then more of the Monkees. I also do have a live album, but I bought that pretty later on. So these were the ones I bought during lockdown. I did buy a few more records, but these are like the ones that like pop out the most in my mind. Number 3, an album that I want to find in 2021. So I've mentioned it a few times, but I really want to get my hands on the limited 2012 pressing of Stereotypical by Rizzle-Kicks. If you don't know who Rizzle-Kicks are, they were a hip-hop rap duo that was really like popular in the UK from like 2011, and their debut album Stereotypical is amazing. I used to love listening to that album back then. I still love their music. I miss them a lot, and this album was just a straight up banger, and turns out they did press their album on vinyl, but it's so rare. I have never seen someone sell it on Discogs. I did see someone bidding it on eBay once, but I just simply couldn't afford it. So yeah, I'm just waiting for the day I see it available. Hopefully, as we're now approaching the 10-year anniversary, they do repress it, but who knows, I need that album so bad. Number 4, we have a box set that I bought in 2020. Well, I do have a few box sets, but the only one I bought in 2020 was the Mercury demos by David Bowie. So this is essentially the tape he kind of made, the demo tapes he made for the upcoming Space Oddity album. This was recorded, I believe, in early 1969, and it is essentially just a Space Oddity album in a rougher form, although some of the songs are a bit different. I do honestly prefer some of the takes on here as opposed to the finished album. I'm Not Quite, which is essentially the early version of Letter to Hermione, is a lot more emotional here. Like, I think it just makes me feel, it just breaks my heart, like poor little heartbroken David Bowie. I do love the studio version, but the Mercury one is definitely my favourite. Janine on here is great because it ends with like a Hey Jude type coda, which I just find really funny. Plus it's all very continuous, so it just really sounds like you're listening to the actual demo tape that he made. There's also some songs that didn't make it to Space Oddity. Shing-a-Ling, When I'm 5, which was a single that wasn't on the album. Life is a Circus. So yeah, it's has some different things. I absolutely love the box set it came in because I have shown this on my channel before. I just love the packaging. It comes with just beautiful notes of what was going on during the session, and I'm absolutely in love with it. And I definitely need to listen to it more, and I'm gonna... It is a hassle to get back in. There we go. But yeah, this is the box set I bought in 2020. Really great early versions of Space Oddity tracks and some non-album tracks that you hear on here, so really great. Up next we have a concept album that I bought in 2020. I did definitely buy a few albums that could be considered concept albums, but I think the most prevalent one is probably Because the Internet by Childish Gambino. I bought the special pressing that comes with the 72-page screenplay. I bought it before the album got reissued this year, and yeah, I think it comes with a screenplay and such a detailed story about the boy. Childish Gambino is the boy in this project, which is a character that we are first introduced in his debut album Camp, so it's kind of a continuation of that. It just shows that the boy doesn't really know what to do with his life. He's depressed. He meets a girl, and then unfortunately shit goes down, and yeah, it's a great album. I think the tracks are great because they work really well in one cohesive project, but then they are also great like as standalone tracks as well. So yeah, definitely a fantastic project that Donald Glover did for this. So really great, and I'm really happy that I have this. And oh my god, was it expensive, but yeah, I'm over the moon. Up next we have an album where the artist changed directions. I know he's going to be mentioned a lot in this video, but I'm really sorry, but I couldn't find anyone that applies better. It has to be David Bowie and his soul album Young Americans. Obviously at this point, you know, David Bowie was well known for being a glam rock icon. Obviously the Ziggy persona was really like thriving here. And then obviously in Diamond Dogs, which is the album that precedes Young Americans, you start to hear some soul influences, but this is where he just really went for it, completely just changed his image. No more of that Ziggy mullet, it's now shorter and different. No more of the crazy glam rock amazing costumes. He was now wearing more suits and more like typical kind of clothing. And yeah, we have a pastiche on Philadelphia Soul, as Bowie described it. And it's just really left field, because I never would have thought that the guy who wrote Space Oddity would just suddenly bring out a soul album. But you know what? It's not my favourite Bowie album, but some of the tracks on here are pretty damn good. And let me just say, everyone who made this album, including the backing singers and everything, are phenomenal. Like, it's just so well done. And then of course Bowie does continue to change directions after this album, you know, going into like the dark Station to Station, and then the German electronic music inspired Berlin trilogy and all that. But I would say this is the most shocking direction I think Bowie went at the time. And yeah, so great album. Up next we have White Label Promo. Now, I could be totally wrong, but I'm pretty sure White Label or White Label Promo pretty much means bootleg. I could be totally wrong, but I'm just going to show you the bootleg I got. So my most recent bootleg I got was Donald Glover's 3/15/20. It's really hard to see because, you know, I've packaged it in a way so that it's protected, but it's not the best way to visually see it. But yeah, this is the album that he brought out last year. Has like no names except for a couple of tracks and everything. I personally really like it. I know some people didn't, but you know, the tracks like Time, Feels Like Summer, which is also on here, and other numbered tracks that I can't remember, like 1910 is good, 4748 is a really great track. I'd say it's a good combination between like Gambino's Because the Internet era, but it also does have like some instrumentation that is somewhat similar to the Awaken My Love era. So it's like a good like combination of both in a way, and I'm really glad that it was turned into a pressing. It may not be official, but I'm still glad that I've got my hands on it. And yeah, so this is, I guess, my white label promo. A compilation album. So I have quite a few compilation albums, but I decided to show you guys the two that I did buy in 2020. So first we have Bowie Legacy, which I have shown on this channel before. It's really great because not only does it have some unique mixes, so for example it has just an orchestral version of Life on Mars that doesn't have any like percussion or anything, so that's a really nice version of the song to hear. It also does have tracks where Bowie collaborated with Queen as well as Mick Jagger. It also does have some newer Bowie tracks like Where Are We Now and Lazarus. But then it also has like the classics, so if you don't feel like sitting down and listening to one particular album, then this compilation album is fantastic because you get every type of Bowie, which is awesome. And then I also got the Beatles Past Masters, which is basically just all the singles that weren't on an album, like all the non-album songs. It's great, it's got some hidden gems in here and I'm really happy about that. An album that tells a story. I think whilst I do have quite a few concept albums, my favourite one that tells a story that I can visualise the most is definitely the rise and fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders of Mars. Just the whole story about, you know, the world is going to end and an alien comes down to try and save the planet but becomes a rock star and then, you know, succumbs to all the human vices out there. I just think it's a great story. It's not the most, it's quite a loose story, as in like, you know, there's a lot of gaps that are free to interpretation, but I think that's one of the better things about it, that I've probably interpreted some things that other people haven't and vice versa. And I just think it has a really, it's just solid the whole way through. The beginning is brilliant, the ending is just show-stopping, and it just has some really great tracks and it's great in visualising a story. Up next we have an album that needs a vinyl pressing. I think that Dreaming Out Loud by One Republic should get a pressing, especially because they said that they were going to press it on vinyl and then that never happened. Tracks like Stop and Stare and Apologise and Someone to Save You, it's just a really great debut album and I want it on vinyl, damn it, because some of my favourite songs ever are on that album and I need it. Also, another thing I need is High School Musical 2 and High School Musical 3 on vinyl, especially 3. High School Musical 1 is on vinyl, but honestly, even though that film is iconic, the songs on 1 just aren't nearly as good as the songs on 2. And I especially have a soft spot for 3, because, you know, we've got Scream, we have Now or Never, Just Want to Be With You, just, oh my god. These songs are so great and I just want them on vinyl so bad. Up next we have a common album and an uncommon album. So for common album, I think Abbey Road is just probably the best suggestion, because for most vinyl collectors, who doesn't have Abbey Road in their vinyl collection? I mean, come on. Even if you don't like the Beatles, I think it's like a staple in everyone's collection, to be honest. So yeah, Abbey Road's my common album. And my uncommon album is Willow by Willow Smith, and this was like a really rare record store day release in November. I didn't even know about it and I've been wanting this album on vinyl for months. I finally got my hands on it and yeah, I would say that not many people have this. Up next we have an EP, so I've gone with Kauai by Childish Gambino. So obviously this album has the mixtape Stone Mountain, but it also has the EP Kauai, so I'm just going to focus on that. Again, this is not an official vinyl release, but oh well. I think this is great. You know, tracks like Sober and Pop Thieves are just perfect summer tracks, and especially the beach picnic version of 3005. I really wish that the beach picnic version of 3005 had the vocals, but unfortunately the vocals were only accessible as like a secret track that Donald Glover like hid on the internet, so unfortunately it's not available on like physical releases. But even the instrumental is beautiful because you can hear the waves of the ocean and people laughing, and it's just so relaxing. Like, this is honestly an amazing like summer kind of EP. And then the Palisades is brilliant as well. And yeah, I love this EP. I don't really like the Stone Mountain mixtape, it's just not something that I enjoy. But the Quiet EP is just mwah. Up next we have girl group. So unfortunately I don't have any albums by a girl group. So the next best thing is an album that has a compilation of French female singers from the 1960s. So Très Chic. Again, sorry it's not a girl group, I just don't have any at the moment. I don't listen to many girl groups. I do have female singers but not girl groups, so I thought this was the next best thing. And yeah, this album I got a few months ago and I love it. My favourite track is Tut 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 by Gillian Hills. It's amazing. I also love 7 AM by Jacqueline Taib. I'm really sorry for all these terrible pronunciations, but this is a perfect album when I just like need to clean my room so I can like dance but also focus and everything. And yeah, it's just perfect. I love it. I love the style. I love the sound. It's just fantastic. Up next we have album cover. There's a lot of album covers that I just adore. I think these are the ones that like live rent-free in my mind and I think about a lot. So we have, I think they're pretty obvious, you know, Sgt. Pepper and Revolver. What I love about Revolver is just, you know, you stare at this for so long and you just, each time you notice something new. Plus I just do love the illustrations that Klaus Voormann did. They're just fantastic. I just love it and it perfectly suits the vibe of the album. And then this is just art. This is pure art right here. And the fact is, those are all cardboard cutouts that they're standing. So someone had to actually build that set. It's not like, you know, just a collage. It's a real piece. It's a real set piece and it's astonishing and it's so bright and it's beautiful and it perfectly just describes and summarizes what the Beatles were like in 1967 and 1967 in general. So this album cover is an actual masterpiece. And then a new favourite, it's very simple and it's probably the complete opposite of Sgt. Pepper, and it's Station to Station by David Bowie. It is so simple. It's just a black and white photo taken from The Man Who Fell to Earth. So this is Bowie as Thomas Jerome Newton. And, you know, white border, red to the point title, Station to Station David Bowie. I love it. It perfectly encapsulates the feel of the album. It's cold, it's dark, you know, it's edgy, and I love it so much. It's just so fucking cool. It's just one of the coolest albums I own, in the way it looks and the way it sounds. Next up we have, oh, your most played vinyl. Oh, okay. Bring this back. I don't know an album that I've played more than Sgt. Pepper. I won't lie, I haven't played Sgt. Pepper in a really long time, but it's definitely my most played. It has to be. I've played this album so much in the course of 2019 and most of 2020, so it has to be this. And 2018, yeah. Next is records that you just had to have the original pressings of. This is a bit of a cheat considering I didn't search for these pressings. Most of them were given to me, but you know, I think they're just so iconic that I probably would need to buy OG pressings, and they are Off the Wall by Michael Jackson. I love that. Thriller and Bad. Now, Off the Wall and Bad were actually my mum's. We do have Thriller somewhere, but I think it's been lost. So I bought Thriller from Spitalfields Market for like £10. Two of them still have the hype stickers on, and they all sound absolutely fantastic. They are amazing. And yeah, I'm so happy that I have original pressings of these. Like, I wouldn't want it any other way, I don't think. They all sound great, and you know, that perfect analog sound, and they're just so iconic that I actually have I actually have Thriller from the time. Up next we have last album I purchased, well, I don't have it at the moment because it's currently in transit, but it is Take Me Home, which is the second album by One Direction. Urban Outfitters in America finally did reveal the album because it got leaked. The album basically got leaked. Some people purchased a copy of Made in the AM from Amazon, which is their 5th album, and it was widely released at some point in time, and yet somehow they miraculously received an album that isn't supposed to exist. So a lot of us were bugging Urban Outfitters on Twitter saying that we know that you're going to do a Take Me Home release, so just release it now. And they did, and on Friday I ordered my copy, and yeah, it should be arriving by the end of the month, and I'm so excited because this is my favourite One Direction album and it's just so much nostalgia, and yeah, I'm so happy. So yeah, that's coming soon. Up next we have an album that people don't get. And I have to say, and I'm sorry, I know this has turned into another David Bowie video, which I cannot believe. Gotta stop. It's Never Let Me Down. Look, is this album as good as Bowie's classics? No way. It's just not. However, people bash on it way too much than it deserves. If this was done by practically any other 80s artist, people would say, oh, it's great. It's just because it's David Bowie that people have to have such a problem with it. I say, let the man make some fun, carefree 80s music. You know, this is a fun album. It has Zeros, and Zeros is goddamn amazing. Zeros is a phenomenal, underrated track that should have been a single, and I don't understand why it wasn't. Because it's just so good. And yeah, this album's really fun. The production choices are dated, but you know, a part of me likes that. It's so 80s. It's amazing. And yeah, it doesn't deserve the bashing that it gets, especially from Bowie fans. It's a good album. Not the best, but good. Good. Any punk albums you have, or the closest thing you have to punk? I don't have much punk, so I've brought the records that I think are probably the closest sounding to punk, and I'm really, really sorry if I'm going to offend people. I just don't have any punk. But what I do have is the Clash's double A-side single Straight to Hell, which is also Should I Stay or Should I Go? So quite iconic. Again, I don't think it's punk, but you know, yeah. We also have the Love Cats by The Cure, which also has on here Speak My Language and Mr. Pink. I'm not really familiar with the other tracks, I'm just more familiar with the Love Cats, so sorry if that's not punk. And then my most punk-like album is probably Scary Monsters by Bowie. Again, not punk, probably more new wave and Blitz Kids, I guess. But again, I don't have punk, and I'm sorry. I just don't. I don't listen to it. But yeah. And then the last question was your favourite 2020 reissue, but honestly, I don't have anything that was reissued in 2020. Like 2019, I have the 2019 Abbey Road, and for 2021, I have the 2021 Station to Station, but I don't have anything that was reissued in 2020, so kind of just have to leave it there. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I haven't done a vinyl tag in such a long time, and so much has changed since then. You know, it's funny because in my last vinyl tag, I had 100 records, and now in 2021, I have 200 exactly, because my Take Me Home record hasn't arrived yet. So at the moment, I physically have 200 records, which I can't believe. But yeah, so I really hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will be back soon. Bye guys!